Welcome to the Irishman, Englishman and Scotsman Football Podcast. Hello and welcome to the Irishman, Englishman and Scotsman Football Podcast. This is another part of our away day confession segment with the Peterborough United fans. Joining me this evening from the Yellow Block Peterborough United podcast is Keith. Keith, you're very welcome to the show.
Good evening. How you doing?
Good, buddy. Good. Can't complain. Good to have you on. Right, Keith, we will have a chat pretty soon about the Yellow Block podcast. Can you first tell me what is your favourite away venue as a Peterborough United fan?
As a Peterborough fan, MK Dons is definitely up there purely because it's easy for us to get to distance-wise. We've half got a rivalry with them. We take a lot of fans there. It is an awful place to go because they've got no fans. They're a complete franchise and they're a complete joke of a club. But it is always a good day out.
How many MK Dons actually fans show up? What's their normal home?
6 or 7, maybe 8 if they bring their brother. No, I'm not thinking probably about 5,000-6,000, but don't quote me on that. I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, their ground is too big for them. I believe it was built for an Olympics bid or a World Cup bid. And I think when we first started going there, it still wasn't finished. They had the top ring that was just all concrete and no chairs. Just shows the ground's far too good for them as a club, but it is a good ground.
Okay, Keith, right. And your least favourite away venue?
Least favourites, probably something like Bury away. I mean, when I went there, that was a cold Tuesday night, bit of a crap game. Nothing against them as a club, but you're up north, it's cold, it's freezing, it's Tuesday. But it's generally the grounds that like that you enjoy the most, because that's where you've got your most loyal fan base there, as opposed to when you go to your big ones like Stamford Bridge, where you tend to take a lot of your plastic fans with you.
Right, so a lot of the Stamford Bridge would be a glamour tie then for the kind of fair weather Peterborough fans, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, when we went there, me and a few lads went and queued up early in the morning, waiting in the queue for hours because we knew there was only 4,000 on sale. I mean, when we then went there, it was a brilliant day out, all got quite drunk on the train there and on the train back. And then you're taking people who maybe go to Peterborough once a year, once every couple of years. So it is better when you go to your smaller grounds because you then have got your much more loyal fan base with you.
The hardcore fans, yeah, that seems to be but every club I think has those, fair weather fans, and when there's a big tie, a big cup game, then they all want to, they want to get in on the action. Yeah. Right, Keith, have you got a couple of away day stories or an away day confession for me, please?
Yeah, my first one, I was 17 at the time, just learnt to drive, and I was meant to be at college, but we had Sunderland away, and there was no chance that I wasn't going to go to it. I mean, that was a massive game for us at the time. They were a much bigger club than us. They still are, but now we do play them twice every season. Back then when it was in the cup, we didn't. So I went up there, told my dad, yep, I'm at college, see you later. I might be out later tonight. Told my tutor, I'm sick. For some reason that day, my dad rang the college because he couldn't get through to me.
No.
Yeah, he spoke to my tutor. My tutor said, well, he's at home sick. My dad said, well, I'm at home. He's definitely not here. They both called me and I was like, well, I'm already on my way. Already got the tickets. See you tomorrow. And I did get in a little bit of trouble. Another story involves a bit of driving. Sheffield away. I believe it was Sheffield United. Not 100% sure though. A little bit hazy, but I drove up there in my little 1 litre Corsa. Small car. I had 2 massive fat guys in the back. So we get up there, park up, go to the game, walking back to the car. One of my mates gets tripped over first of all because we've just beat them 2-1 in the last few minutes of the game. And we're taking the mickey a bit. We're having a good time. Get to
As
my
you
car.
do.
Yeah. And one of the springs had broken on my car. And this side of the car was sat about 6 inches, 8 inches lower than the other side of my car. Now I live a good 2.5 hours away from Sheffield. I'd only just started driving. I didn't want to sort of test that. Now, with us all being young lads, like I say, I think, yet again, we was about 17, 18 at the time. None of us had any money. I think we had about £40 between us. So we was looking at getting a hotel. We managed to find a Premier Inn with a room spare, but couldn't afford for all 4 of us. One of us then came down for a cigarette. 2 went back upstairs. Half an hour later, 1 went down, 2 went back upstairs. And every time we wanted a cigarette, it was more and more as we were drinking more and more. You'd have people going down one by one, so we didn't get caught. Obviously, nighttime, there's not a great deal of hotel staff, but I'm fairly sure we got caught. We didn't get kicked down. I think they just turned a blind eye to it. But we had 4 of us sharing 1 double bed and a small chair.
How did you get back the next day?
I took my car to a garage and said, here you go, fix that. We had a day out in Sheffield, just doing a bit of sightseeing. Can't really remember anything decent that we saw. But it was just, let's see how much time we can waste in Sheffield while we wait for the car to get fixed. Little bit of birds.
Did you have enough money to pay for the garage to fix the car?
Dad that sorted that one.
Ah, okay. Can't beat the dad for situations like that. Right. Yeah. Brilliant stuff, Keith. Thank you very much. And now, Keith, the Yellow Block is a very popular Peterborough United podcast. Can you tell me about that, please?
Yeah, it's been going for a couple of years now. Over the last year, sort of starting at lockdown, we've started to do match reactions as well. It was meant to be a monthly podcast that we do. Now we're sort of doing 1, maybe 2 a week. And I believe we're on about 80 episodes now, and we're looking to be on our 100th episode in the next sort of 2 or 3 months. There are 2 parts to the podcast. There's the main one, which just talks all things Peterborough, so the stadium, the owners, the transfers, the players, injuries, everything about football. And then you've got the match reaction, which is we record straight after the game's finished. It's raw emotion, quite a bit of ranting, certainly from Kisby. And it's just quite a fun thing for us to do as well. And I think it's kept myself personally going through lockdown, and hopefully it's kept a lot of other people entertained through lockdown as well.
And have you had any Peterborough United players, ex or present, on?
So on the main podcast, we've had all 3 owners on it. We've also had Craig McHale-Smith on it, Aaron McLean on it. But obviously it's an honour to be associated with those guys, and to be lucky enough to get the owners and the ex-players on.
That's brilliant, man. Brilliant. We had the owners on. Fair play to them, for coming on as well. That's not really a common thing that club owners would come on to, just a club podcast a lot of times. And how do we find you?
We're on Twitter at The Yellow Block, Facebook /The Yellow Block. We're on Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your podcast from, and now on FanHub as well.
FanHub, brilliant. Okay, good stuff. Okay, so we're Spotify and we're FanHub and
we are
everywhere else. Okay.
Yeah,
brilliant.
You get the podcast from.
Good stuff, Keith. Thank you very much, and best of luck for the season, buddy.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
So next up on our Away Day Confessions, Peterborough United fans, we have the chairman of the Posh Independent Supporters Association and the man who's been to more away games than the Sky Sports cameras. It's Adi Mowles. Adi, how you doing, mate?
I'm all right, mate. How are you?
Good, buddy. Good. Right, we'll crack right into it. Adi, you're a lifelong Peterborough fan. I mean, how many away games do you reckon you've been to?
Oh, I'd say from way back in 73, 74 was my first load. And then I joined the Air Force for 12 years, but managed to waggle it around that I was only based in England, apart from the odd detachment. So I didn't miss many then. and then right up to now. So I've only missed about 3 or 4 in the last 6 years, probably. So, oh God, let's work that out. 73, 83, 93, 83. Oh my God, too many. Oh, many hundreds, high hundreds.
You're a bit of a legend among the Peterborough fans, I have to say that. And you, like the rest of them, you must be delighted now that the Peterborough are back in the championship.
Yeah, I'm a legend with some and a pain in the butt to others because being chairman of the independent supporters group, we do ruffle feathers a bit because we've got nothing owed to the club as such. So those that are our members are like-minded, and if they think something's wrong, they'll shout, and then we'll put it forward for them. So you'll get the diehards, who are lovely people to a man or a woman, will maybe say, "Why do you keep causing trouble?" But we're not. We're trying to make things better for our members. But yeah, I've got some great memories of away games, and funnily enough, the last fantastic chapter in our existence took place at home only a few days ago, as you say, with a 96-minute penalty getting us into the championship.
Brilliant. Good to be back. Right, Adi, what is your favourite away venue?
We've only done it a couple of times, but it's relatively local, and I've got 2, so I'll go the first one. Relatively local, but we've only been there a few times, and that's West Brom. Just a proper old-fashioned football stadium with old-fashioned fans, and they're quite friendly, which it doesn't matter because Birmingham's massive. So because we run buses to a lot of away games, we tend to suss out good pubs that are walking distance preferably, but not going to have any idiots turning up. So we went to West Brom 2 times in a couple of seasons in the cup, and it was just fantastic, just great fun. They were, they cheered us off the park because we drawn with them on one of the games, and it was brilliant. And Villa would come a close second to that because we beat them, albeit a Villa team in name only, probably because Bruce didn't take it seriously. But they stood and stayed at the end of the match and applauded our team off, which was really nice to see. But I think a lot of Posh fans will tell you the very best away day is, believe it or not, on drum roll, Rochdale.
Rochdale.
It's a really unusual choice, but certainly when I run coaches, the biggest coach we can get is an 87-seater coach, and I fill that up within hours of announcing we're going to do it. And we leave home. We've got our own headquarters that does us breakfast and opens the bar. So we're in there about 7, have 2 or 3 pints, and a full English set us on our way. And we're up to Rochdale by 10:30, I would say. Wetherspoons opens nice and early in there, and then it's got a beautiful square right in the centre, one of the few northern countries that governments have taken notice of and have spruced up over the years. A brilliant Wetherspoons, does real ale, and then about 5 pubs within walking distance. And then you end up at the cemetery, which is right outside the ground, legendary pub, brilliant real ale pub, and then 100 yards down the road, you're in the ground. Just a great place. And again, friendly locals, great pubs.
Sounds like a perfect away day.
Rochdale really is. Win, lose or draw, and we normally win there, which helps. But yeah, great away day. We've had many, but they're always good away days.
Good stuff. And your least favourite away venue, Adi?
Yeah, I don't really enjoy places that are over-policed. So our real rivals historically are the Wobblers, Northampton. But it's a bit of a bind, you know what I mean? The car, but they won't let you in any pubs nearby, so we have to stop. We used to take a coach there, and we have to stop only about 15 miles from home. So then you've still got another 15, 20 miles to get to the game. So you've got to time that absolutely right. Then the police want to meet you in a lay-by out of the way and then escort you in. We're always late, so they jump on the bus and they inspect everybody for any bloody hip flasks or bottles or cans of beer and all that lot. So that's really unenjoyable. So I don't enjoy Wobblers or Cambridge to that effect. I don't enjoy there because of all that. But I like the results because we always beat both of them. Yeah.
So you must have some away day confessions. You've been to too many games not to have some good stories for us, Adi.
Oh, I've got a lot of stories. Not maybe some of them can't be repeated on here, but I don't suppose you're bothered. But actually, just a few years ago, and here's one you can add to the away day favourites. Brentford at Griffin Park, which is just a fantastic venue. It's a great old stadium, and it's got 4 pubs, one on each corner. I don't know if you know, but 4 pubs, one on each corner, and they welcome home and away fans. You don't get any hassle. Absolutely brilliant. So probably 5 or 6 years ago, we went there for a night game. Made a big mistake starting at 11 o'clock in the morning. Went down there by train and got to the ground around about 3 o'clock, where we always go into you'll be pleased to know, a great Irish pub there called the New Inn. We get in the New Inn and we hit that. Then we hit one of the other pubs, and then one of the other pubs, and then one of the other pubs. And it's a challenge to do all 4. And then I go back to the New Inn by about 6 o'clock to meet up with a load of London-based Posh fans. And by now I know I'm slurring. By now I'm doing everything I can not to slur, which makes me slur even more. But I thought I'd be all right, because it's literally 120 yards to the turnstile. The stewards were in great numbers. Being London, they always are. And they could see me, and I knew that they clocked eyes on me. Whether they'd been into the pub before, I don't know. But they clocked eyes on me, so I said, right to the lads, no singing, no shouting, let's be quiet. Did my best not to sort of veer all over the road, but no chance. So they came over to me, and one of them knew me. He'd obviously spoken to one of the Peterborough coppers who comes to all our games. And he says, Adi, I just need you to do me a favour. You're too pissed to get in the ground at the moment. Can you just sit on this wall for a second? So I said, yeah, all right then. And the lads were going to wait with me. And I said, no, you lot go in. You know, it's not fair on you lot, just in case. He said, no, he'll be in a minute. He's just got to prove he's not too pissed to get in there. So having been stationed in Germany over the years, I know that their breathalyzer law used to be, can you walk in a straight line? So we tried that, failed miserably. So he sat me back on the wall, didn't touch me or anything, just asked me to sit on the wall, and I fell off the bloody wall backwards. Which basically meant that was not a game I was going to get into. So we got whooped anyway. I never got in the ground. I texted the lads and said, I'll see you in the New Inn. I went in the New Inn. She, bless her, gave me a cup of coffee. I sat in the corner. I had a 20-minute kip, and then I was up again ready for some more beers. By now, I'd had the game on my phone, and we were getting beat 3-0, I think it was at the time. So I think the steward did me a favour in the way, although I'd obviously wasted my money on a ticket. But yeah, so there's lots of thems over the years that have happened, but mostly I get in.
And have you got a few more for me?
Yeah, I mean, when I was a youth, I got arrested a few times because it was very easy to get arrested in the 70s and early 80s. You really just had to be part of a group, and even if you'd done nothing wrong, which was normally the case, to be honest, because I was all gob. Nothing really happened when it came to it, but I did get arrested. If you can talk about arrests, I don't know, but I did get arrested quite early. Yeah, quite early in my glorious Posh career. I got arrested. I was only 15, and we played football in the morning, and we were playing Rotherham in the afternoon. Quite a big game in Division 4 as it was back in those days. So we had to go to school in uniform to play football, which was a bit ridiculous. But we had our Skinners. I don't know if you know what they are, but
I don't.
Big wide, white trousers basically, but wide all the way down.
Okay.
Terrible, really. And my airwear boots. You know, I'd look like one, but I just wasn't one. And a shirt with a top tank on it. You know, I looked all like the gear. Went to the football, got off the football, dropped off at the bus station, left my school uniform in my bag, so then I could act the tough, and went to Cathedral Square, which is right in the middle of Peterborough, which is where all the Posh fans would meet about 2:30 and walk into town. And as I walked to the ground, I beg your pardon, as we walked to the ground, we saw some Rotherham fans, and this particular fat bloke was being chased by a group. And as he came towards us, he was heading straight towards me, probably thinking I was a weak link, which undoubtedly I was. But I had to stand up for myself, and I put him down. And I thought that was the end of it. And off we went. We all marched to the ground, you know, chanting and singing our way, which was the way back in the late 70s. Went to the game. At half time, we were winning, and their fans, because they bought quite a lot, were getting quite disgruntled, trying to cause trouble and what have you, which again, as I say, you know, it just happened all the time then. So we had a little way that we could get into the away end, that you could sneak if you were slim. I couldn't do it now. you could sneak under the gates, get into the away end, and the same thing
Nice.
happened. Yeah, lovely, really. Not a nice thing to think back on doing, but it was a bit, I don't know, it just seemed fun at the time. Anyway, me and the fat bloke locked eyes again, and he got his own back on me. Fair enough, that's the way of the world. We got kicked out by the police, end of the game, off we go. So now I've got to revert back to the schoolboy bit because, you know, I've got to get on the bus to go home and go back to my mum and my family who all think I'm not an angel, but I think I'm a good one.
They think
Lo
you're a
and behold,
model student.
they think I'm a model student, probably not by my reports, but by my telling them. So yeah. And then come around the corner, just get into the bus station, which is right next to the train station. There's my mate, fat boy. He comes over to me. I put him down again. And arm touches me on the shoulder and says, "That's enough, Molesy." I turn around thinking it's my mate, and it's my village copper. Shot putter, Jeff Capes, who's big enough, fat enough, ugly enough, and strong enough to break me in two. He's going to give me a rollicking and then let me go. But another copper saw it all, said that he'd got it all in his book, because there were cameras in those days, and he was happy to take me to the Nick. So, of course, Jeff Capes couldn't just let me go because it would have been bad policing. So, yeah, so I was let go and I got a fine of £55. It was my first ever fine, yeah. And a ban from football for a month, but that didn't happen really. I just went anyway.
Still though, £55 would have been quite a lot back then.
Yeah, it was a lot of money. That was 78. So, yeah, a lot of money. And I didn't pay it. My dad paid it and I had to work it off, so...
Right, good stuff.
77, 78 season, we had to go to Wrexham and basically win. It was on goal difference, but we had to match the results of other teams. And in actual fact, Preston had played the day before for some reason, and we were playing on the bank holiday. And I'd got in a little bit of a ruck again a couple of weeks before. So my parents had said under no circumstances could I go to the game, which was never going to happen. So at 6 o'clock, I got up for my paper round, and 7:30, I met my mate in the village, and off we went up onto the A1 because we lived in the village just off the A1, and we thumbed it. Well, the first thing, we didn't have a clue where Wrexham even was. So the first lorry that turned up, which they did in those days, let us both in. We jumped in. He said, "Where are you going to, lads?" We said, "Wrexham." To which he laughed and said, "Have you got a bloody clue where Wrexham is?" And we went, "No." He said, "A good job I do." So he took us up to the pretty newly opened M62 to a transport cafe, dropped us off there. He went off to Leeds, I think it was. Very kindly went into the transport cafe and asked if any lorry drivers were going that way. So I think one was going reasonably close, dropped us off. He didn't ring his mate, those days are gone. Dropped us off at the depot, and his mate took us in another lorry that was going to Wrexham. So we were at the ground. We're only 17 years of age. So despite what we boast about nowadays, we didn't go in the pub and have 12 pints at all. We went in the pub and probably had a couple of shandies. Found the worst pub in Wrexham because it was full of Wrexham fans who had won the division the week before. So it was a big celebration party. So a couple of 17-year-old kids were nothing. But a load of Posh fans stormed it. Again, these things were always happened in those days. A load of Posh fans stormed it. And obviously we were recognised and expected to do our bit, which we couldn't because we were literally in the corner of this pub. But anyway, that sort of happened. Then we went to another pub and we mixed with all the Posh fans and off we went. There was 5,000 Posh there. 12,000 Wrexham fans supporting their promotion and 1,000 Preston fans at the game, which probably became a neutral area, but wasn't. They just filled this area.
Preston
Because
fans.
obviously, because if we didn't win, they went up because we hadn't scored the goal for goal difference or betted anybody else's results. So yeah, this really weird situation of this cacophony of noise from Wrexham fans celebrating promotion, 5,000 Posh fans cheering the club on, to get that win. We desperately had to win. And the longer the game went on, Preston fans getting noisier and noisier, knowing that if we didn't get the win, that they would go up. into obviously the next division. Di Davis, he was a Welsh keeper, had a long career and a very good one, but generally was known for his gaffes as much as anything else. He had the greatest game you've ever seen of a goalkeeper in your life on that day. He must have carried off 6 or 7 worldies. It's just, we hit the bar, we hit the post, we had shots cleared off the line, we had 1 goal disallowed, although it was blatantly offside. Anything that could have gone wrong went wrong. So at the end of the game, it was 0-0. We hadn't won. We hadn't betted anybody's results. So now you've got 13,000 people cheering. The Wrexham fans thought it was hilarious. Preston's a lot easier place to go for them. And the Preston fans were delirious as well. And we were absolutely gutted. And then we had to get home. How the hell do we get home? We've thumbed it getting home. That's relatively easy. What are the chances of getting somebody to take us home in a lorry from an industrial town like Wrexham to a little village off the A1 in Cambridgeshire? There was no chance. So we went to see the Yobbo's bus, as it was called, Stefan's bus. Stefan was a coach driver who had his own coach, squeezed us on. I should think of a 52-seater coach. There was 70 on the coach. We're driving along the road. We see some Wrexham fans walking along the road. They're not really thumbing it. They're walking along the road. Steph, being Steph, stops the bus. The door opens. They grab these 2 lads. They don't do anything to them. They don't beat them up or anything. They strip them, and then they drop them off further down the motorway or the road. And that was the journey back. Was just mayhem all the way back. If I could have got off and got a lift home, I'd have done it. But that sticks to mind. But the main thing about it, obviously, it would have been a fantastic day because we would have won, and that would have been it. And Di Davis chose that day of all days to have the best game he's ever had.
The only thing I knew about Wrexham growing up was when I was very young. I think they beat Arsenal in the FA Cup, and there was a guy called Mickey Thomas who scored a free kick. That's it. But it's bizarre that there was 3 sets of fans in the stadium on the one day. I mean, normally if that was the case, Preston fans would be in Preston in a pub watching it, listening to the game on the radio, and then celebrating if they went up. But they wouldn't be allowed into the stadium these days, surely.
No, not these days. And nowadays, at the best, they could have gone on. Oh, what was the thing? You could go on the phone and ring up and find out the latest result and things like that. Even radio stations didn't, except for really big games, weren't playing the commentary. And obviously for Preston, they wouldn't have had a commentary because they weren't involved. So, yeah, they were down there. If you can imagine, you've got 2 ends at Wrexham. You've got the one end is a massive stand for the home fans. Still is to this day, great ground. And terracing at the other end, which is a massive stand. So you had 2 ends of terracing. You had a main stand, which was seats, and another stand opposite, very small one, which was seats. And all along the bottom of the seats would be an enclosure. A lot of clubs had them. We had one. And that was where all the Wrexham fans went. So they just turned up. And as more turned up, they all went to one place. They didn't try and get into our end. No reason to get into Wrexham's end. They were supporting Wrexham, really. Yeah. So, yeah, you're right. Wouldn't have been allowed now at all. And then to see 3-way scrapping in the car park afterwards was surreal. Mad, yeah. It was a mad day.
Have you got one more for me?
Yeah, probably. I talked about this with an old, and I mean old friend of mine the other day who came with me. Lived in this little village called Wittering near Peterborough. And in 73, we could go up if few results had worked for us. The chances were it was going to be next week when we were at home. But if we beat Barnsley away and a couple of other results went for us, we would have been promoted. We then had a couple of games to go to become champions, which we did eventually. And I'm moaning about it because they were only putting on a certain amount of coaches. I didn't get off my derriere quickly enough to get a ticket, or not to get a ticket, but to get a coach ticket. And I wasn't probably brave enough then, being 3 years younger, to even just stand on the A1 and get a lift. Didn't know anybody was going from the village. Moaning about it on the Saturday morning of the game in my barber's. I had hair in those days. And he says, "Oh, I'm going up." And I'm thinking, this is 11 o'clock. my lifestyle, even then as a kid, not being a drinker, obviously, even then, but being a drinker later in my life. But my lifestyle then was to go up on the coaches and got there nice and early. And he wasn't going till about 12 o'clock. To me, Barnsley was, it could be Singapore for all I knew. So we said, can we get a lift? Can we get a lift with you? But Barnsley's South Yorkshire. It's not that far. You can do it nowadays, 50 minutes on a coach, well, an hour and a bit on a coach, 50 minutes in a car. And he went, no problem. And I said, oh, can we make Keith come? You knew Keith. Yes, you can go. Well, he had a Hillman in. It was the most perfect. If he could get that now, it'd be worth 50k. It was in the most perfect condition, and it was never not going to be in the most perfect condition because he drove all the way up the A1 at about 35 miles an hour. So we left at 11 and literally got there about 1:30, 2 o'clock. He then went to newsagents, got a can of pop, and we sat outside in the car till about 2:30, and so he then drove to the stadium itself. Well, when we got there, they were doing quite well, but I don't think they could do anything, but they were getting good gates. It was packed. He could not get his car parked anywhere at all. And he was a terrible driver, awful driver. In the end, we saw a gap. I said, there's a gap there, Mike. He said, well, I won't get in there. I said, yeah, you will. I said, well, I'll stand at the back. Keith will stand at the forward and we'll get you in. It's only a Hillman in. It's not that big. Are you sure? I said, yeah, absolutely. So we saw him in, him coming back first. Then he went forward. Then he went back. He kept going back. I said, you've got to get further back. You're not getting your front end in. Kept going. He was riding the clutch, something wicked. In the end, the clutch slipped, bang, into the car behind us. He just felt the bump. I saw the bump. I saw the bump happen, and I saw the bump or the dent come out of his bumper. So I said, no, you're all right. There's no, oh, thank God for that. There's no marks there. He then went forward, did the same thing and hit the car in front. But now he's a nervous wreck. He parks up straight. He only comes to the front to look. Thank God for that. There is no bump there. And off we go to the ground. It's about 3 o'clock now, so we're thinking we've missed kickoff. Back in those days, Barnsley, before Thatcher ruined it, had mines, many mines, and everybody basically worked in the coal mines in Barnsley.
I'm a coal miner from Barnsley.
Yeah, that's it. Good Barnsley accent there, son. Well done. So when we got in the ground at 3:05, no game, nobody there, hardly anybody there. Loads of Posh in there. No teams out there warming up or anything like that. Not that they warmed up in those days like they do now, but so we asked what was wrong by one of the blokes telling the programme, who said, in an accent I won't attempt, that they kick off at 3:15 because that gives the mid shift on the mines time to get in the shower and get to the ground. So it's a history. I didn't know that. So we kicked off at 3:15. We drew 0-0. That's another 0-0 after Wrexham. Another 0-0. It was a 0-0 back in a proper 0-0 way. Do you know what I mean? Crap. Awful game. All the other results went for us. So if we had a one, we'd have gone up. There was quite a lot of Posh there, but nowhere near as many as there would have been if it was all or nothing. And we had to wait 3 or 4 weeks before we then beat Gillingham at home in the final couple of games in front of 18,000. So in retrospect, I'm glad we won it at home. But it would have been nice just to have been part of the chosen few, beg your pardon, at Barnsley. Obviously, then when you get home, I showed Michael his rear bumper as well. Gave him about 30 pence for his fuel and left him.
But basically, he was a tortoise, yeah?
That's all he was. He was a tortoise in mind, hairdressing and driving.
Brilliant stuff, Eddie. Eddie, you've been amazing. Thank you very much. Best of luck with the championship season coming up, and congratulations to Peterborough. And I wish them all the best. Thank you very much, Adi Mowles.
Cheers. Enjoyed it very much. Thanks, mate.
So next up on our away day confessions here at the Irishman, Englishman, and Scotsman Football Podcast, we have the Peterborough United fans. Mick, Jacob, and Dean just joined us. Mick, a lifelong Peterborough fan. And before I ask you the simple 3 questions that I will ask, you have a crazy record of away games, Mick.
Yeah, well, after I contacted you earlier in the week, I thought I'd look into it. I've actually been to 741 away games, including a run up until when the pandemic had started, missing Accrington, that was 525 games on the trot. I've seen Posh play on 162 different grounds, and I've seen them win on 95 of them.
Wow, that's some record, I got to say. We've had a chat to a lot of big, Premier League teams for the away day confessions for the radio and the podcast. The likes of Newcastle, Man City, Leeds, but nobody had a record like that. That's pretty impressive. Fair play to you. Right, Mick, what's your favourite away venue as a Peterborough United fan?
I was thinking about that. I would say I've got particularly favourite. I've got areas like I co-authored the history of Peterborough United, so I do get access to the Football League Archive Museum to do research. So when we play up at Blackpool, Fleetwood, Wigan, I tend to go up and make a weekend of it, or a bit longer, so I can get in there. I know a lot of Posh fans are going to hate me, but probably I think the best ground at the moment that we tend to get to is Milton Keynes. Absolutely fantastic stadium. Shame it's gone to them, but
right, you're not the first Peterborough fan to pick MK Dons. Right, Mick, and your least favourite away venue?
well, it tends to be to do with travelling. Macclesfield was also a pain in the backside to get to because there doesn't seem to be any direct route, although they're obviously no longer in existence. The other thing is like London, Crystal Palace, Millwall, Charlton. Not so much for the ground. 'Cause I think each ground, whether you go to Sunderland or Accrington or whatever, the bigger grounds or the smaller grounds, they've all got their own character. So it's more the background getting there, and like I say, going through London's or Palace. You either go straight through the middle down or go round and come back up. So if I had to pick one, it would certainly be Palace, but it tends to be travelling wise.
Right, we're going with Crystal Palace there, Mick. And have you got an away day story for me, Mick?
Got a number. I don't know where to start, really. Certainly one that probably some of the more recent Posh fans will remember would be Burnley back in the 11-12 season when it snowed during the game. It didn't seem too bad. 3 hours after the final whistle, we were still inside of the floodlights. Didn't get back in Peterborough until 1 o'clock. The A1 was down to single track. And my mate, who lives normally a 3/4 hour trip away, who was driving, he didn't get home until 4 o'clock. I know some Posh fans come out the ground and within a few miles of Burnley just actually dropped into travel lodges or Premier Inns and stayed the night because the weather conditions. Do you want me to carry on with other ones?
Yeah, give us one more there, Mick, please, if you have another one.
Well, Leicester, first game of 92-93 season, Leicester was having the ground redeveloped. Supposedly no Posh fans were allowed in. I see a number that I knew because I'd got some friends that actually lived in Northampton. They got the tickets for me because they weren't selling tickets to people with Peterborough addresses. In fact, Adi Mowles, who you said might be on here, I see him there. And I reckon there was probably up to about 500 Posh fans at a game which we were banned from. Although we went 2-0 down, it was difficult not to cheer when we got a goal back. You had to remember where you were standing.
Good stuff, Mick. Thank you very much. Right, Jacob, you're from Yellow Block Peterborough United podcast. How long have you been with the Yellow Block podcast?
I started just at the beginning of the season, so I'm relatively new joiner of the podcast.
Right, seems to be doing pretty well. Right, Jacob, what's your favourite away venue?
Right, my favourite away venue is, I've actually changed my mind because I forgot about this until I had some time to think about it. It's going to be Portsmouth away. The reason is the context of the game. We had to win the game to get a chance to go in the playoffs. They had to win it to get a chance to go automatics, and it was all destined for them to win. It was at Portsmouth, so it's quite a big ground with fantastic atmosphere. And I took a load of friends from work who from variety supporting backgrounds from Liverpool, Sheffield Wednesday, Huddersfield, from all over the league. So I took about 10 of us there. We went 2-0 up pretty early on. All the lads were starting to throw me up, like catching me and throw me up and things like that. Then they went 2-2 up and we thought, oh no, we've lost this. Then we managed to put up 3-2. And yeah, next thing you know, we all got our tops out, like swinging around and had a laugh. And it was just like bringing all your friends who don't know a lot about Peterborough, actually winning and actually giving us that chance to go in the playoffs. it was just a fantastic away and a fantastic feeling when I came off that night.
Good stuff, Portsmouth. And your least favourite away, Jacob?
My least favourite away will be Doncaster. Nothing wrong with the ground or the place as such. I just find there's no real atmosphere there. I've been there 2-3 times now, and it just each time, even though there's crowds there, nothing seems to get going. And obviously, it's a bowl cup like stadium, and it's just never been a enjoyable away day for me.
You're not the first person to pick Donny as the least favourite either, Jacob. And an away day story, Jacob?
I've got one that relatively interesting. So we played Derby County when we just found out we was going to stay up for that league. And we thought with us and a group of friends go dress up. I dressed up as Spider-Man. We ended up in the front page of the newspaper next day. It was a nice feeling because we were, for a team like our size, to stay up in the championship meant a lot for us. So there was no tense about the game. It was nice and enjoyable, obviously having a few drinks and things and dressing up, having a bit more of a laugh. And yeah, it's a different feeling than like a more of a tense game when you go to a away game. It didn't really matter with the result. So yeah, no, us getting dressed up and being on the newspapers, on the website and that's just a small story there.
Right, good stuff. Spider-Man. I doubt Mick will be dressing up as Spider-Man in his day as a Peterborough fan. Dean, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Good, doing well, thanks.
Good stuff,
How are you
Dean.
still?
Yeah, pretty good. Thank you very much for coming on and chatting with us. Dean, obviously also a lifelong Peterborough fan. What's your favourite away venue as a Peterborough fan, mate?
I mean, I'm not a seasoned away traveller, lifelong fan, season ticket holder, home game after home game after home game. I'm actually living abroad now, so I've been watching them on iFollow a lot.
Where are you living now, Dean?
I'm in Lisbon now. I live in Lisbon.
Wonderful city. I was down there for my birthday last year. Fantastic.
Yeah, it's great. And obviously Posh have their summer training camps down in the Algarve. So I get to go to some pretty awesome away days, if you think of it like that. We've had a few friendlies with Portuguese teams here. It was annoying last summer because they did it in Spain. I'm on the west of Portugal. They do it on the east of Spain. So it's no better than coming from Peterborough. But yeah, not a terribly massive seasoned away day traveller around the UK, but there's been a few venues that I've been to. I'd say probably the best one that I've done is probably Huddersfield. Huddersfield away tends to always be a good day for me. Huddersfield's a town that I know very well, but I mean any away stadium that's walkable from the train station. And the north has good public transport links as well. So an away day is all about good public transport for me.
Right, Dean, you're one of the first to pick a northern team as your favourite. A lot of lads complained about the weather and the ground and the people and stuff like that of the north. So fair play. And your least favourite away, Dean?
Well, it's the opposite. Anything down south, kind of central London area, I find a bit of a nightmare to get around. And again, it all goes down to public transport. If you can't walk to the stadium from that city's or town's train station, then it becomes a bit of a hassle because, an away day, you like to have a few beers. The last thing you want to be doing is driving to an away day. I've done it a few times, but if you can get the train, then great. And Peterborough, it's on the main train line. So for me, great away days are places that you can get to easily on the train. Bad away days are places where from the train to their stadium becomes a bit of a nightmare.
Right, okay. And have you got an away day story for me, Dean?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few. There was Boston away. I forget the year exactly, but it was when David Farrell played for Boston. And, he's pretty much never worn anything but a Peterborough badge on his chest. I know he's been to a few other clubs as well, but, most of his career, 95% of his career, he was Posh. And he was on the bench for Boston that day, and he just got warming up in the second half, up and down the touchline. And I thought, how are we going to treat him, sort of thing? And we just all broke out simultaneously, all at the same time, into there's only one David Farrell. And you could see it hit him. It hit his heartstrings. It really did. And that was a great sort of away moment for me because, well, I started watching Posh, early Barry Fridays. And he was very much in that team, you know. David Farrell, Mark Tyler, Scott Houghton, those sort of players were the heartbeat of Peterborough United when I got into them. And so, yeah, for me personally, seeing Farrell still given that respect despite wearing Boston colours was pretty special. That was the same game as well. I think we had Simon Yeo up front, and he had a terrible time from the home fans that day at Boston. And you know, we're really getting on his back. And I remember once he went to go and pick up the ball for a throw-in, and he slipped. He just slipped over, and of course they all start, you know, pointing and saying the W word, you know, at him, and we just had his back, you know, and just straight afterwards we all just started chanting Yeo, 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 and it's almost fans against fans at that point, and it's kind of like, don't worry, we've got your back, sort of thing. So
we've got you covered.
that was a good away day.
And he
Good stuff.
scored the winner 3 minutes from the end.
You've got a better memory than me, Mick.
Oh, Mick, what a guy! You're a human Peterborough encyclopedia. How many away games, Mick, was it? Sorry, on the bounce you went to 500 and something.
525. The last game I missed was Matthew Etherington's debut on the 3rd of May 1997, up until the Accrington game this season.
Wow, that's legendary stuff, Mick. Listen, guys, thanks a million for everything. We'll be in touch when you go out on the podcast and on live radio as well. Yeah, thanks, lads.
No, cheers.
Cheers.
Next up on our away day confessions, the Peterborough United fans, we have Dan and George. How are you doing, lads?
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad at all. Up the Posh.
Good, good. Right, George, cracking on for the first time ever on our away day confessions. We have a birthday boy. George, happy birthday.
Thank you very much, guys. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it means a lot, and a lot of dedication to your club that you actually came on to talk about Peterborough on your birthday. Took time away from the celebrations. George, what is your favourite away venue as a Peterborough fan?
It's got to be either one of the Nottingham clubs like Forest or County, or probably one of the Sheffield clubs. Basically, either Sheffield or Nottingham for me.
Anyone in particular, if you had to decide?
Probably County. It's easier to get to, and I've had some really good memories going to County. I don't think I've ever seen us lose there, and it's just a fairly good away day, really.
Yeah, they actually came to Salzburg a few years ago on a pre-season, and all the fans came into the pub, the Notts County fans, and the next day all the players came into the pub.
To be fair,
I got kicked out of that match. I went to that.
Hooligan Dan. I know
I was
too much
with
wheat
my
there,
James.
mate. Too much wheat there.
Yeah, I was with my mate of mine. He was wearing a Forest shirt. We were sat right behind the dugout, and they accused us of antagonising the opposition and kicked us out. So,
it was only about 15 fans, I think. But
yeah, but
right, George.
There was Sheffield Wednesday fans there as well. They took over the show, and I was like, they weren't even playing, and they got to stay, and we got kicked out. So. Yeah.
Yorkshire hooligans.
Anyway,
sorry. What's your sorry, George? Dan's interrupting you there. What's your least favourite away venue, George?
I can only really think of something like MK Dons, because although I've got some good memories and I know some really nice MK Dons fans, just the away end. Logistically, it's an arseache because there's no direct trains. You've got to get a lift there. You've got to get the train station is miles out of town, and sometimes the stewards can be a little bit heavy-handed. But other than that, probably your more northern towns where it's always cold, always raining, and you always seem to be playing somewhere in the Pennines in November, when you know your big coat ain't going to be good enough.
You're the second Peterborough fan on, George, and you're also the second one to mention MK Dons and the second one to mention the cold in the north. Right, have you got an away day confession for me? An away day story?
I possibly got two.
Crack on, man! It's your birthday. You can go as many as you want.
It is actually a birthday. We played Doncaster Rovers on my 21st or 22nd. And everyone found out it was my birthday, and it was basically who can get me legless as fast as possible. And by the time we got to kick off, I didn't know who Peterborough were, but I managed to sober up two the ground and watched us win 2-0. And I think it was the first time Luke James had ever scored for Peterborough. He was a terrible striker. But what was quite funny was I had to get the early train home. And coming from where I was, Doncaster, to get to Doncaster where I lived at the time, you had to change over in Leicester. And at the same time, Sunderland were playing Leicester on a Sunday. So I ended up bumping into a load of Sunderland fans at Leicester Station who had no idea where to go on a Saturday night. And I said, well, I know a couple of pubs around the block, because you football fans, we're quite a communal bunch when we want to be. And they all found out it was my birthday, and they ended up getting me even more legless than I ever got. And it was a really good time, actually. My second would probably be when there's another birthday, actually, funny enough. We were playing MK Dons.
It's all about the birthdays, George.
Aye. It's all about me today, apparently. Probably when we played MK Dons and we beat them 2-0 or 2-1. And it was the day that Carl Robinson got sacked. And he kept doing this arm gesture. And I don't know if you guys are aware, but Cardiff City fans do the Ayatollah where they pat their head. And he kept throwing his hands up like that, trying to get the ball forward. And someone shouted, let's all do what Carl does. And the whole of the away end started bouncing with the hands up in the air. It was probably the funniest thing I've seen. It's always good to beat MK Dons anyway.
Right. What was that Cardiff City thing, George? What did they do?
It's called the Ayatollah. I think it's when Sam Hammam was the owner or chairman of Cardiff City. They used to pat their heads to do the Ayatollah. I could be completely wrong. But
Right.
they used to pat their heads when Sam Hammam used to do a lap of the ground.
I've got to say though, that's my least favorite away venue anywhere ever. Gelsenkirchen and Cardiff. I thought it was a horrible, grey, absolute shithole of a place.
The old one, the Neenan Park, or the new stadium.
Not the Millennium Stadium, Dan. Not the Cardiff City. It's the Cardiff City Stadium, the older one. Yeah.
No, but yeah, they've got Cardiff have a new ground now, but the one before that was an old terrace, and it was called Neenan Park.
Right. Well, if that was old, the new one is brutal. Because I was there, the Cardiff City Stadium, and in 2017, and
it's going to be their new one. Yeah.
I've been fortunate enough. I've not been to a Wales away day just yet. It is on my list of things to do, but I've never done a Wales away day.
I've done one, and I wouldn't go back in a hurry. George, thank you very much, buddy, and happy birthday to you. Really, thanks a lot for coming out to chat on your birthday, and enjoy the rest of the day, buddy.
Cheers, thanks, appreciate it. Have a nice evening, guys.
All the best, mate.
Thanks, George.
Bye.
Right, Dan, what is your favorite away day venue?
I have to go exactly with George, although he didn't quite break it down. Not Notts County, Notts Forest, or one of the Sheffield teams. But for me, it's not so much the ground itself, because like you've got Notts County and Nottingham Forest, and they're either side of the river. The grounds are right next to each other.
Okay.
As terms for stadium, obviously the county, like the city ground, Nottingham Forest, it's miles better. The facilities are better, but the county ground's always, it's like 20,000 all-seater stadium. When they were in the championship in the second tier, they thought they were going to go up and do really well, be big. Got this huge stadium, and then they got relegated again, and now I think they're in the non-league now, actually. But which is ironic, because they're the oldest professional football club. But
so Notts County.
Yeah, like Nottingham itself, they say that the women outnumber the men 3-1. I'd say it's more like 4-1.
Oh, so it's actually true, yeah.
Yeah. I would say Nottingham is probably been my hometown. That's where I'm from. I've got family there, friends from there, and I went there years ago for a night out. And I think the last time I went there was about 5-6 years ago with a friend of mine, and I was shocked. I couldn't believe it. Like, I was like, where are all the men? But on a match day, you've got Hooters Bar, which is just down the road from the stadium. If you're a bunch of lads, you want to get some chicken wings, burgers, get served by a nice dolly bird. you're piling at Hooters.
Lovely
reserve a
jabbly.
table. But it's just, you know, if for away day, you know, you've got bar after bar after bar, pub after pub after pub. They're totally sound with away fans. There's one or two pubs near the ground that are for home fans only, for the Forest fans. But even then, like if you're on your own, or maybe one other person, and you're behaved, you know, they're fine with it. They're really, really cool.
Right,
yeah,
good
for
stuff.
me, yeah, Nottingham, without a doubt.
Good stuff. Dan, of course, does not work for the Nottingham Tourism Board. And your least favourite away venue, Dan?
I can sympathise with George there, like with the North, like, you know, when you talk about the weather, but honestly, for me, if there's any away fan that's travelled around as much as I have, and there's plenty of other fans that have been around all over the country for decades, but Priestfield Stadium, Gillingham, absolute dump. It is. It's about, I don't know, I would say, my geography is not the best, but it's probably 20 miles east of London on the coast near Canterbury. So you've always got this wind coming in, but the away, they don't actually have a proper away stand. It's like the first thing you see is a scaffolding. That's what it is. It's just it's scaffolding.
So it's a building site.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. It looks like the beginnings of an away stand construction, but it's been like that for, I don't know, 20 years, I guess. And I think it's one of the only away stands, if you want to call it a stand, that doesn't have a roof. I think there's only 2 or 3 other grounds that actually have an open stand in the whole of the English Football League, you know, including the Premier League. So you're on the coast. If it rains, you get soaked. The wind comes from every direction. It comes from underneath because there's gaps. You know, you got porta potties for toilets and a little van for if you want to get some, you know, some food or whatever, burger or a
Jesus.
cup of tea. Oh, it's bad, and you can feel it. Like if you get a strong wind, you can feel it moving. It doesn't feel safe at all. Honestly, like if anyone's listening to this, if you hear it, check it out. The away stand at Gillingham. It is by far the worst away stand. But I will give some credit though to Gillingham because, you know, they're not a big club, and I think the stadium holds around 10 or 11,000, and they average around 4,000 or 5,000 a home game. And if it's a quieter match and the weather is that bad, they will move the away fans into a home stand. Yeah, but the funny thing is, like, I don't know, it's like that old technique the army soldiers use, you know, when you're in a cold environment, you pack the people together so you work off each other's core body temperature. And they do that on the stand there in Gillingham, because like whenever they have the away fans in there, they're all piled in together in one corner, so the wind doesn't destroy everyone. Do you know what I mean? It's hilarious, but I've been there twice, and that was, I don't know why I went the second time round, because as you know, JP, like I live in Austria now, and before I left to Austria, I was a season ticket holder at Peterborough, and I went, you know, every home game, and I tried to, you know, when my finances allowed it, I would go to as many away games as possible. And I was a student then, so I'd take the fans bus, you know, and or train, whatever, cheapest option basically, car share or whatever. Yeah, when I moved to Austria, the flights like with Ryanair, do you remember when Ryanair kicked off? We're going back now.
Yeah, they
16,
were
17 years.
they were a lot more frequent than they are now, and they were a lot cheaper as well.
Times have changed, you know, with the emissions and everything. You know, they put the prices up, airport tax. But I could fly from Austria, Salzburg, direct to London Stansted most weekends for about 20 euros. So at the time, it was about £15. You're literally just paying airport tax. Do you remember those days?
Yeah.
So actually, strangely enough, me living in Austria, it was easier for me then to go to away games than it was when I actually lived in the UK. Because where Peterborough is situated, you know, like if you're not on a main line or on a bus route, like George was saying, sometimes you don't have direct routes and you've got to change at stations, buses, and it can get expensive and just time consuming. Sometimes it's just too much of an effort. You know what I mean?
Right. So
like,
Dan,
when-
we're going for Gillingham as the least favourite away. Yeah, Gillingham, not a place to be on a windy day.
Yeah.
Okay, Dan, you are famous for your stories. I'm going to say away day confessions, but you definitely have more than one or two anyway. So crack on, buddy. What's your away day stories or away day confessions?
You know, it's like when you asked me that question earlier, I was thinking about it, and you know, I mean, I witnessed some crazy things that I most definitely cannot talk about on this podcast.
Oh yes, you can.
Regardless who's listened. Honestly, man, I've seen, you know, we're going back mid-90s, you know, football hooliganism, the punch-ups, violence. If you remember, like all the old football hooliganism films that came out in the late 80s, early 90s, you know, I was just a kid then, and I never thought it was cool, but it was certainly interesting and it was exciting. And you would see, you know, I mean, although we're a small team, you know, every now and again you'd be playing a cup game, or if a big team wasn't doing well, like West Ham or someone, rather than playing some Mickey Mouse club like Crawley, you know, West Ham would turn up, and then all of a sudden you've got 5,000, 4,000 away fans turning up, and they're going mental. You know, the lads have just been drinking all morning. They want to tear up the place. Well, some of them are just, you know, pure for football. But anyway, getting sidetracked here. Get back to confessions.
Stories,
One time,
confessions, Dan. Yeah.
Stories. Yeah, there was a few years ago. We played a cup game against Cambridge United, which is it was always for me our main rival. Some people will say it's Northampton Town because it's closer, but for me it was always Cambridge in the 90s. As my time, they were our hardened rivals. We hate Cambridge. I can't stand them, but we haven't played them for 17 years competitively, and this was our first game away. But it was in the Tin Pot Cup. I don't know if you know it. I think they call it the Papa John's Trophy now, or sometimes I don't know what it was called before. Johnston Paint Trophy. It's basically
Johnston's Paint Trophy. Yeah.
Yeah, it's basically a tournament for the third and fourth tier of English football. It gives them a chance to play at Wembley. You know, it's a tournament between those two divisions. No one ever really took it seriously until you got to like the quarterfinal, semi-final, and it was just a day out at Wembley, you know. But a few years ago, well, actually, might have been last season, the Football League decided to introduce academy sides from the Premier League, B teams, under 23 squads, and the fans are just like, no, we're not having it. They're boycotting it. So this tournament, it's not that special. And at the time when we went to Cambridge, I think it had been a normal tournament or a league match. It would have been a packed house. But I think we still took around 2,500 fans with us on a cold Tuesday night. I couldn't get a ticket on the train, so I went on the fan bus. Once I got into Cambridge, you know, I was texting with some of my friends that were already in the city, and they closed all the pubs around the football ground, which was a ball ache because we got there about 4 hours before the match, and literally everything was closed. I couldn't believe it. If you wanted to go and have a drink, you had to go right on the other side of the city just to find somewhere that might let you in. So we were like, oh, what are we going to do, you know? And we saw like all the fans just disappeared. They went off walk. I don't know where they went. Most of them we didn't. Then I saw a Frankie and Benny's. Do you know what a Frankie and Benny's is?
Yeah.
It's kind of like an Italian American like pizza, pasta sort of place. Chain, you know, franchise chain restaurant. And we went in there, and there was probably like 5 or 6 families in there. You know, mums and dads, kids. And we went in there, and there was one barman and two waiters running the floor. And I went and asked us and said, look, we are part of the away fans support Peterborough United. He didn't even know who was playing. I think he was from Poland or something.
Yes, what are you doing here, my friend?
Yeah. I was like, look, we're away fans, but do you mind if we have a beer? And he's like, yeah. And he had no idea what was going on. And I was like, all right, sounds. So straight away, I got a pint in, and we were like, right, we don't know how long we're going to be in here before we get moved on because there's plenty of police around. So I got on the phone for all the fans forums on Twitter. I was like, Frankie and Benny's, they're serving Peterborough fans. And then literally within 10 minutes, one group come in, then another group come in. another group come in, and then the place just filled out, man. It was, he ran out of glasses within, like, you know how it is, you know, we've both worked the pub scene before. He ran out of glasses. He didn't know what was going on. He was freaking out. And then we're like, just put it in any old glass. We didn't care. And yeah, I mean, everyone was well behaved in that, but yeah, Frankie and Benny's just basically turned into like Coyote Ugly scene, you know, people going mad, shirts off. It was yeah. So that, I would say that's it's not really a crazy story, but
I hope you looked after the poor Polish barman, man.
yeah. We give him plenty of tips.
Right, I'm sure you have a load more stories. What else have you got for me?
Probably my best one actually was. See, I know George said he didn't like the sort of northern grounds or where they're cold. I can get it, you know, if by a weather choice, depending on time of year.
I've just got a question for you there, Dan. Now I got to stop you there for a second. The last guy that was on from the Yellow Block podcast, Keith Toplad, and also George mentioned the cold. You know, I mean, Peterborough United. Peterborough is hardly the Riviera. It's not as if you've got, you know, Marbella weather.
The Miami of England. What are you talking about?
Oh God!
White sandy beaches. No. To be honest with you, there's actually a big difference, you know, with the north-south divide. You know, northern towns, they generally tend to be harder, a bit more. The weather is definitely worse. That's for sure. You know, they're very sort of working class, because most of them, especially around the Yorkshire area, they were mining towns. You know,
yeah, but how much difference are you speaking in the weather? Like, it's not going to be, for example, plus 20 in Peterborough and minus 10 in Doncaster.
Nah, it'll be more the wind, really, the wind chill factor. Like if you're on the coast, there's a big difference. You know, if you're 20 or 30 miles in, because you've got the North Sea winds. But I don't know. Yeah, I guess you're right in a way. You know, you could be on Peterborough as an away fan on a Tuesday night and probably have the same opinion. You know, and our old away stand, you know, stood there for 70 years, same facilities, same toilets. So I'm sure people would have the same opinion about Peterborough, whether you're coming from the north or the south. But yeah, this one time anyway, I decided to brave it and go do the long haul Peterborough to Carlisle. It was done it twice, and I didn't get to see the game twice, because the first time round I took the bus, and it's about, how long is it to drive? It's probably about 5-hour drive, and we were on a bus, and we got up to around, this is a midweek game as well, which is stupid. We got up to around Darlington, it's like North Yorkshire, and we were sat in a service station, and this is like before you know, smartphones and whatnot, and there was a teletext up on a screen in a service station, and it was going through the evening's fixtures, and the match had been cancelled due to bad weather.
Oh, sickener.
We were already, yeah, we're like,
sickener.
Sake, man. Oh, I was livid. I was looking, that was horrible. And then we had, and obviously then the bus driver, we were going at him, it's like, why did no one tell you? He's, it's not my bloody fault, no one told me, you know. But yeah, and you know what, actually, there was probably about 300 fans that went to go that game, and most of them actually ended up at Carlisle before they found out. So in some ways,
crap,
we got lucky. Yeah, but you know, that was early 2000s, you know. And then the second time, pre-game's way too hard, heavy drinking. Took the express train on the main line, which ends up in Glasgow. So it's basically London, I think it's King's Cross actually, all the way to Glasgow. Stops off in Carlisle, but I fell asleep and ended up in Glasgow.
Oh shit!
Didn't even see the game. But I was on my own. You see, at that time, like I was meeting other people there. I was on my own. Had I been with friends, they would have been, you know, can't wake up. But
they would have looked after you, yeah.
Yeah.
So what did you do? Go and watch Celtic or Rangers playing instead?
Nah, because then it was like, it was, you know, late evening, and I don't know if you've ever been to Glasgow, but a scary place, especially if you're an Englishman. You don't be hanging around there. But yes, no, I went straight back. But I've actually done that non-football related 3 times. The first time was when I was working. I fell asleep, and the second time I couldn't open the door. But yeah, anyway, that's not football related, so we won't talk about that. Yeah.
Any more stories from me, Dan?
Yeah. I don't want to go into too much details in I don't want to big up any football violence or anything like that, but as we know, Millwall are notorious for their football extremism.
They
And
certainly are.
Yeah, they're well known. I think well renowned, even though they're a small club. But anyway, yeah, 1999 it was. We found ourselves in the same division as them, as they were actually for most of the 90s. They weren't very good. Not doing too bad now, but anyway, yeah. 1999, we were having a shocking season. I think we got relegated that year, but we were on a terrible run. Boxing Day, 1999, I decided to go ditch the family, take the bus down to Millwall way, down the Den. We won the game 2-0, which was massive for us. But on the way out, like when you go into the Den, it's like one of those old railway bridges. It's got like an arch, and there's one way in, one way out, which is quite scary if you're an away fan. So as we were leaving, we were on a bus. I was sort of sat in the middle. I couldn't really see what was going on, and the fans were shouting out through the window and whatnot, and fans were shouting at us. And then I felt the bus rocking side to side. I thought, oh, they're just taunting us, And then the bus stopped, but then it really started to rock. And then the driver's like, oh, hold on to one of the handles or something, because they're trying to tip us over. And all the fans had gone on one side, and they were trying to tip us over in this archway. But then luckily, I don't know, for whatever reason, because of where we were in this archway, the fans just couldn't get a big enough run up to knock us over. And I think the arch would have stopped us from falling anyway, but they smashed a few windows. But that was pretty scary, because I was only, I think, 17, I think it was. And I used to think it was kind of cool then, but I absolutely shit myself. I was terrified. I thought, bloody hell, what is going to go on here? They're going to come on the bus. I'm going to get my head smashed in. But yeah, luckily it didn't work to that.
Yeah, we actually had an old Newcastle fan who told a story of Millwall away in the 70s, and the bus been attacked as well, windows been smashed, and basically the police ushering the bus driver to get the hell out of Dodge and get out of London as soon as possible. So a lot of the story, a lot of the confessions from the older days have involved London and Millwall away. Yeah.
I saw one game, JP. I can't remember. I think we were playing Barnet or Leyton Orient. Again, this would have been 90s, and we got stuck at a station with Watford and Wolverhampton Wanderers. So this was London, and one side of the station was all the Watford fans, and on the other side was all the Wolves fans. And there was only a few of us, probably like 5 or 6, on a corner. We were just changing station there, and they were throwing darts at each other. They'd stolen some darts, like the proper steel tips. And there was, in between them, there was families and kids, And I saw like some old fella walking out of the station with blood pouring down his head, with a dart sticking out his head. I was shocked. I was like, that's not cool. Like, what's that all about? That's not right.
Yeah, thank God those days are gone, Dan, huh?
Yeah, well, I don't know, man. Like, I don't know. Depends. It tends to be a bit more away from the ground these days, a little bit more organised, but there's still a lot of dickheads.
You think it's still going on?
Yeah, I do, actually. Not as bad as it was, but when you go around the more populated areas like London, the London clubs, definitely, yeah.
Well, there's cameras everywhere, all
Definitely.
over the UK now.
Yeah, well, this is what I mean. Like, it's it's not difficult to cover up your face or wear a hat, which is what they do. But it's often away from the ground. They'll either meet up or they'll clash, or they're drinking in pubs that are adjacent to one another, and the next thing you know, for the most part, it's good, but it just takes one comment,
one idiot to kick it off.
One idiot has had too much to throw a pint glass, and then it goes off and one. I saw the same with Leeds United at Peterborough. I was with my nephew, and he got spat on by a fan just walking past.
That's
and
out
it
of
was
order.
right in front of. I was right in front of a police officer as well, and he did nothing. And my nephew then was he was like 3 years old, you know.
Yeah, that's uncalled for,
Yeah.
really. That there's no need for that.
But you know, I saw just as many bad things from our fans as well back in the day. Not so much now. Sadly.
Good stuff, Dan. Thank you very much for chatting, and best of luck for
pleasure,
the
man.
season, buddy.
Up the Posh.
Thank you for listening. If you'd like to hear more of our podcasts, please click on the red subscribe button on the bottom right-hand side. Thank you.